basically once a resource becomes so valuable and so essential to human life, it almost becomes it almost belongs to everybody just because of how universal and important and dependent we become on it, you know? So it'd be kind of absurd to think of like oxygen or water or these things that like everybody needs to survive. Like there's special rules and regulations and laws that define it as like a shared common resource that
I,
we all
I
need.
feel that way about the internet.
Exactly. The
Like,
internet.
I
Yeah.
mean, is it really, I kind of feel, maybe this is just me getting a computer science degree and really liking computers and all stuff, but I felt like the internet is kind of a human right, like
Mhm.
access to the internet. Now, this
Yeah.
this is not to say that like if you need high usage, you shouldn't have to pay. Like, nothing like it should be
Right.
given for free.
Right.
But it's like it does feel almost fundamental to like as fundamental as like water and oxygen and all of these things that
Right.
you should have access to it.
Like you can't meet like you're gonna have a hard time being successful in the world or in the economy if you're just completely cut off from the internet. So
I mean, some people are trying that now, and maybe life's a little nicer, but
yeah, I mean you're probably happier.
yeah, you're probably happier. Yeah,
You're better, you're way better off.
yeah,
But it's like, you know, if you want to go out and make money or start a business or like, you know, be really effective in the economy, it's going to be an enormous disadvantage if you don't have access to the internet.
and now we're getting that way with these models.
Exactly. And like, you know, I think like a lot of people are talking about like, you know, the more you code with AI, then you kind of start to forget how to code without AI.
Yeah,
Right? And so we're gonna be in this world where it's like, you know, my startup, for example, um, can't exist without AI. I mean, it's an AI product, but also the building of the company is 100% reliant on AI. We're a completely AI native company. And if we assume there's a certain amount of code we can produce and product we can ship because we're leveraging these AI tools. And if we were completely cut off um, from our token streams, like the company wouldn't be able to function anymore. And you can see how like that's just beginning, like this kind of dependence, whether it's like for businesses or for individuals who won't be able to function if they're cut off from their AI. Um, you know, if my phone is dead, you know, and I'm in the middle of a city, I might as well be lost in the woods. It's like,
yeah,
how do I get back home? You know, like where I don't have access to money. I don't have a map. I don't have, you know, a vehicle. It's like, so the same is going to happen with AI. And then once it gets to that point, it does almost become a matter of fundamental um liberty that you can't effectively function in the world without it. And somebody who is trying to limit your effectiveness in the world or censor you or whatever, if they can cut these things off, then they sort of deactivate um, your power. And once something gets to that point, then it's too much power to kind of let just one company or entity be able to make that decision over someone's life.
yeah. Which I think gets back to another theme of this podcast we're doing, which is decentralization, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
it's been, I think we've been kind of lucky so far and it's really just good for humanity in the world that we've had such a proliferation of these open source models. So there was the new models from Google that came out. I was playing with the 4 billion one last night
Yes,
that has
Gemma 4.
Gemma 4. And man, I was kind of asking some like graph theory questions to it, and it was pretty decent
Yeah, no,
and
those are
fast.
great models. Yeah, really fast, really powerful. And yeah, I mean, I think the beautiful thing is the internet will not be denied. And like you know, are you familiar with like the Streisand effect?
Yeah.
In case the viewers don't know about it, like Barbara Streisand tried to there was something on the internet that she wanted taken down from the internet. I don't remember what
Yep.
it was,
Yep.
but she, you know, her lawyers went after her and like issued takedown notices and tried to get whatever it was off the internet. And then that just like exploded its availability because the fact that she was trying to take it down created a lot more awareness that there's something interesting to go look at. And then that made all these other people like mirror it and host it somewhere else. And then it became like impossible to take down. So the Streisand effect is kind of this notion that if you try to censor something on the internet or you try to take it down, it's going to have the opposite impact. And, you know, there's sayings about the internet that it treats like, um, the internet always routes around censorship or information wants to be free. And I think, whether we saw that in the early days of the internet, like with BitTorrent or Napster or the Pirate Bay, or WikiLeaks,
Yeah.
like when there's really important information, like people felt like that, feel like that about music, right? Like music is so important to our lives. Like if we're gonna put it on the internet and let people have access to it. So the internet, like when it identifies some kind of really valuable piece of information, especially that is something that's becoming like essential to all of humanity, it's going to go out and it's going to get it and it's going to distribute it and it's going to make sure that it's never censored, it can never be taken down. So like the fact that, for example, a few days ago, the Claude Code harness source code leaked because
Yeah.
of a misconfiguration, and then, as soon as it's discovered, code is down, it's mirrored in a million places. Anthropic sends a bunch of DMCA takedown notices to GitHub. Doesn't matter. That code's out there.
Yeah.
Everyone's sub agents have like already analyzed it inside and out. And it was almost as if it was almost inevitable. Like if it wasn't going to leak that way, it was going to leak somewhere else. Like their harness has become so important to how people work and how people think. The internet needed the code
Yeah.
and it
Well,
went and got it.
that and or even someone like, reverse engineering it. So I think,
Mhm.
like, at least from my perspective, so disclaimer, I have not dived into it myself and played around with it. But part of that is because I think like some people in the industry have been like, it's not like even the biggest leak in some ways because it seems like it's mostly a bunch of like clever tricks to help coordinate these models
Mhm.
to work really well in certain kinds of workflows like coding, for example, or like working on a file system and all these particular things. um I saw one social media post that was talking about trying to use OpenCode with uh Anthropic models like Opus 4.6, and they were having a lot of trouble getting um the model to respond well to the open code. So open code is an alternative, an open source alternative to Claude Code that's been around for a while. And there's other versions of these too, right? So they're kind of their own harnesses. And but the way that they package up the tools and the way they send the information to the model, that, it seems like they were kind of pointing out this thing where one reason Claude Code might be so good is because uh Anthropic is training, and this is speculation for sure. I don't know if I haven't verified this, but they were saying it's because they're training these together. So
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
you run a harness like
Mhm.
Claude Code or whatever harness you're building on whatever model you use, and you will quickly, I mean, especially if you're trying to set up an open claw, like I've been trying this with like some open source models, or like you'll quickly run into like things failing or getting errors or all this stuff or tool call errors. But that's all valuable failure data, just like any other
Mhm.
data. And you could then use that to fine tune the model
Right.
or train from scratch if you're going to retrain it, whatever. But this idea that the harness might be more tightly coupled to the model than you think.
Right.
And so I just think I mean, it was cool to see that, new information get out about how to use it, and like some of these tricks. But at the end of the day, um, I would have bet people would have reverse engineered or even built something potentially better.
Yeah. I mean, also I've seen some stuff where there's like some really powerful MCP tools for decompiling software too. So even the idea that you even need the source code may be becoming a thing of the past if the AI can just read the compiled code and kind of figure out what the source code was or was close enough. But the point is that The internet's going to win, humanity is going to win,
Yeah.
whether it's the harnesses, whether it's the models. This is something that belongs to humanity, that is too important to how we all work and how we all think in the future for, a set of private companies or governments to have exclusive access to it. And the open source community and the internet is kind of built to sort of liberate those things and take control over them, and then superpower them and make them better than they could ever be if they were only worked on by a closed proprietary team. And like, we also see it with LLaMA.cpp, where you have 1,000 contributors all over the world.
Yeah.
They're doing optimizations every single day, or as soon as a new open weight model hits, like Gemma 4, they're adding the templates, the token support. Like, they are pushing open weight models and the performance you can get on local hardware or consumer hardware way beyond what anybody thought was possible. And and then you have all these open weight um all these open weight models are emerging. Like, there's the Chinese ones that had been kind of taking the lead, but now you've got Google, you've got
Yeah.
some American labs coming out with open weight models.
Yeah, Arcee just had a model come out. I
S-
hope I'm saying that right, but
that's the
the
model
Trinity
that's
ones.
yeah, the
Yeah.
Trinity one. Yeah. And that one is optimized for agentic orchestration, which is really cool. That's something I remember you were telling me about when we first met, actually, was that there's this huge potential for local models, um, and local AI. Instead of having this one giant model that's good at everything, you have certain models that are very specialized, and they don't have to be as big, and you can get better performance. And so we're already seeing that with the Vora product, where we have this, like, Guardian AI that's an orchestrator. And before, I was using Qwen 3.5 122B,
Yeah.
and I get 30 tokens a second. But then I realized, oh, this new orchestration AI, like, beats that model on just raw orchestration tasks, and it runs at 70 tokens a second.
Wow, and have you been using it so
Yeah.
far? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I mean, we just started implementing this,
Sure.
where it's like, now, and then I'm switching our conversation agent over to Gemma 4 because it's a better conversationalist than Qwen 3.5. And that runs. So now 122B is just going to be there for, like, coding tasks.